So what else is going on, guys? What else is new?
Well, we're working on this game.
I don't know how you really follow up, with
transition.
Yeah. Other than appearing on network national television, what else is new with us?
They're just not as good at me as transitions, but I thought it was pretty cool. We went around on the show and tell last week for Ratchet and Clank Future. Ryan and I tagged along for most of those. I guess Ryan tagged along for some, and I tagged along for most of the others. And basically, for those of you, no one really knows exactly what we're talking about, but essentially every Friday, Brian goes around and takes a look at all the different things that have been kind of going into the game, and I let him talk about that a little bit more, and kind of the process of checking in with everything.
There's a lot of people that are working on these games, and as the creative director, I have to kind of sign off on each week's work and just quickly look at what people have created and make sure that it's all connected. We really want the gameplay, the story, the artwork, all of the creative elements to kind of come together into a unified whole. So I'll go around with each department and look at their work. And this includes environments, character departments, animation, design, and programming. So James and Ryan tagged along last week, and we looked at some weapons, some bosses, and then we watched some movies. And it was kind of great to see your guys' reaction, because you haven't seen some of the movies that are coming up. And so, we've seen that so many times that you don't often, when you hear the joke for the fifth or sixth time, it's like, well, is that really still funny? But you guys were chuckling along and laughing out loud, which was great to hear. Especially that one with Quark. I think, our animator Chi Lao is doing some great stuff with his mannerisms and how he moves. And
I think that was like one of the biggest takeaways I had from the experience, and this has been proven time and again when we've seen this in the past. You read a script, and it's funny on one level, but then after something gets animated, it takes on a life of its own, and something that may not have been as funny before becomes riotous, and that's really what was exciting to me was that the script really kind of took off after seeing sort of the animation dailies that we saw.
Well, and I think that was going to TJ, who's our writer. I mean, he kind of has to keep that in mind too. He's writing for these characters, and it's not there's a lot of, I didn't realize how much skill and kind of writing it for these characters that will be animated and will be delivering it and writing it for these voice actors. There's a lot more he has to think about in order to make that funny, I think, in the long run. Whereas when you just read it off a script in your own head, it wouldn't. But when you actually put it with those characters, it's hilarious, and we were laughing out loud at stuff that I might have kind of just chuckled at or passed over in the script.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things too is other people, besides the creative director and the two marketing guys, come to these meetings too. We have TJ, the writer. We've got our project management staff, and so this is just a great time for everyone to kind of touch base a half hour with each department. And one thing that we've discussed with speaking of the writing stuff is that sometimes a gag will work without writing, sometimes it works with writing, and a lot of times they can sell stuff just through the animation. So it's kind of working through that balance. That was good. And then, of course, we're also working towards our next focus test. And this last week, we kind of all had a reality check on what our schedule was and what we had to get done. And so I kind of just mentioned each of the upcoming deadlines. And so we're on track to hit them, but we're definitely going to have to buckle down and work hard for the next few weeks. So that's exciting.
What was your favorite aspect of the tour, would you say? Like, what struck with you besides, was it the animation, or was there something else that struck you?
It was pretty cool. I really enjoyed seeing where some of the animation was and seeing some of the, very early cinematics and cutscenes, and just even in very rough form, like some of the animations, and just capturing some of the mannerisms of Quark and those type of people was really funny. And it's just like, it just shows, Insomniac's always been great at animation, and I think it's going to just add a whole new element when it's finally in there. But I also saw some concepts for some of the levels that are kind of in the last cycle of development, and be some of the last levels that get built. And a couple of those look really, really cool. Like, just I mean, you're looking at a level that is white blocks right now, basically, and you're seeing kind of that typical Ratchet and Clank opening view of a huge vista. And even in just blocks, without any textures or anything like that, I was like, wow, that looks awesome. And the potential for that is just really, really cool when we get there and they build it all out. And, you know, there's no effects, there's no ships flying around, there's nothing. It's just white blocks, you know, making up the major geometry. And it already looks very, very cool. And so I'm really, really excited about a couple of those levels that I saw.
So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a creative director, how do you... What I was impressed with was, and I'm not just saying this because you're right here, but how are you able to, you know, we go from the character art group to the environment art group to the animation group to the gameplay group to, you know, the audio group, whatever it is. It's like you have to put on a completely different hat. Like how are you able to keep it all straight in your head? Like what are the pillars that help you decide if something works or it doesn't? Is it gut? Is it education based? Is it both? Is it experience based? Is it all of it melded together?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is melded together, and I really, on some level, I can be somewhat objective because sometimes I'm seeing this stuff for the first time, I'm seeing the initial opening view, and so I can really just give my gut reaction. And then there's a lot of just communicating what's going on in the other departments. I mean, by giving this kind of bigger view of the whole production process, I can say, well, you know, by the way, animation is putting this prop over here. This may conflict with how you're building this particular section of the level. And then I can also, you know, talk about the characters and how they work with animation. So there's a lot of stuff that I can really just share. And, you know, a lot of times it goes really smoothly where I don't really have to say anything. I'm just like, yep, that looks great. And that's because, you know, we've got a lot of great leads. And also we have a really good art director, Chad DeZern, who really monitors a lot of the visual style and the visual elements. And so really I'm just communicating the various issues that could potentially come up. And so yeah, it comes from experience, gut, all that.
Well, very cool. I mean, it's a huge part of the process here. You know, I don't think until I went on, like, I don't know. There's how many meetings on that Friday? There's like 6
4
or
or 5.
6 or
yeah, there's 5.
Okay, so there's 5. You know, when you go on all those, and like I was getting back to my desk for 5 or 10 minutes, like checking some email and going on another one. I mean, I just was realizing how much time it takes out of Brian. You know, Brian every Friday. You know, that's pretty much his day is, you know, going to each different department. So it's actually a really huge part for him on like just being able to go and look at everything and see what's going on because there's just so much stuff going in all at once.
And this is a relatively new process for us to be going through, right? Like this isn't something that we've necessarily done for games on end. Like this is new.
Yeah, I mean, after having made several games, I mean, I think at Insomniac we've kind of learned that so many things fall through the cracks. A lot of issues that you run into in game development are what I call like blocking issues, and it's really just, does this guy fit through this door? Like when you do a stage play, you block out where all the characters stand, where all the pieces go. And there's just a lot of little things like that. And so we've just learned that if we kind of check in on a week-to-week basis, we can catch a lot of this stuff early, and we don't have this crazy crunch where, you know, characters don't fit through doors and the gun doesn't fit in Ratchet's hands. So, yeah, it's been really helpful.
Very cool. Very cool. And, yeah, I mean, not too much else to talk about Ratchet right now, is there? Besides, you know, Extreme Home Makeover, gearing up for, you know,
various events that may be coming in the future.
Yeah, we have to be kind of quiet about that at this point, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Right now, we're focused on the Focus Test, I guess you could say, and you'll be hearing more publicly from us and our game in the not too distant future.